I don't have a sponsor, so if you want to support my work and help it to continue, you can subscribe to my Patreon. I'm making new animation projects week by week and providing animation assets that can be downloaded and used. I also have a very large collection of tutorials in the LinkedIn Learning Library covering animation and design, and I'm putting all the links to these in the notes below. Okay, I'm in Photopea. Let's see if I can do a drawing using this free Photoshop alternative because I hate Adobe. This is famously similar to Photoshop. It's as close to being a replica as possible. Don't know how he gets away with it, but there we go. So File, New. I'm going to work in 3840 by 2160. I've seen other people use this software and they get an ad banner down here. I don't know if it's because I have an ad blocker on this or not, but I'm not seeing them. Not complaining. You might see either a gray area here or ads here. So don't freak out if you see that. It is free. If you want them to go away, then you simply pay the monthly fee, which is actually very small. And unlike Adobe, you can cancel it without being, not cancelled or paying a penalty. Let me go through this and see how it works. So looking very familiar. We have our brush tool. Now it has this problem here, and I had this happen before. So let me figure out again how this is happening. Something to do with Wacom, the Wacom tablet settings. Wacom tablet properties, and I'm so glad I remember this. It's use Windows Ink. There we go. So let's go to the brushes window. Window brush. Where is it? There we go. Oh yeah, right, they have it. I don't like this way that Adobe does things, but whatever. So we have different brushes here, and you will probably have your favorite brush. So let's see if we can import brush tools from Photoshop. So in Photoshop here, I'm opening the brush presets window and I'm going to save brushes. I'm using CS6. You may have an older version or a newer version, but it'll be pretty much the same. I'm going to save these onto the desktop and just call them Photopea. So I'm seeing this instruction here on the website. Let me go to the main site and to hell with the evil that is Google. Okay, Photopea supports loading custom brushes in the form of ABR file. We have that on the desktop. Open such file with file open. Okay, and it's going to make a local storage, so it's going to save these brushes somewhere locally. I would keep the ABR file, and if you ever have an issue again, then obviously you might want to be able to reload it. So let's check the brush window. Window brush. Oh, they're there. After a little bit of mucking around, you see they've all appeared. So I just deleted a few of the ugly default brushes, and then I noticed that they're popping down here. So let's see if I can get the one that I want, because I'm quite particular about the brushes that I use. And as in Photoshop, I'm able to enlarge these using the bracket keys. That's my favorite way of enlarging brushes. And the one that I would probably work with, I like to sketch with this. I'm not seeing great pressure sensitivity on this, so it's definitely there. Now I'm working with a much older Cintiq. It's ancient. I bought it in 2007. Works great. I'm not a huge fan of the way Wacom has gone either. I think they have been going down the toilet. So I'm holding on to this old vintage one as long as I can. So I like these. These are nice. I'm not sure that my presets are going to be as easy to bring in, but for now I'm going to just work with what I have here. And let's bring the opacity down. I'm going to actually just delete everything there and zoom in a bit. Pick one of these. Again, B shortcut. And now we can muck around with this, see if it works or not. So one issue that I do notice working with Photopea is that it's not as fast as working with even my old CS6 Photoshop, which is fairly responsive. But I think as long as it's good enough, that's the thing. And I would still think Photoshop per se is superior, of course, but the newer cloud versions of Photoshop are just, I had to cancel my cloud subscription because of the bugs. I simply couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't worth paying them. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to undo that. That's the brush I'm going to go with. Let's get rid of this panel. And now let's do a drawing and see if we kind of lose our sanity or not. I think if you're using Photopea for thumbnails and graphical composition, it's probably going to be fine. The question is, can you actually do nice drawings with it? So the drawing that I'm going to do today is an illustration for a podcast/blog that my wife and I run about James Joyce's Ulysses. And the illustration for this one will be a scene in Ulysses where Leopold Bloom is remembering getting caught up in a riot in Dublin when people were protesting against the British Army's Boer War concentration camps. So heavy going. Anyway, I've already done an illustration where Bloom is chased by a constable from the RIC, and we kind of have to do a similar one. And there's so much stuff in it that reminded me of the 1960s. I thought, let's do Leopold Bloom as a hippie, like a flower power, CND, and make love not war type, just to have a bit of fun. So let's see if I can draw this. So I'm going to work with a different brush now that I've actually looked at that. I'm not fond of the way it's drawing. So let's go here. And can we do tools presets? Oh, there we go. Maybe I can drag this to here, or will it let me or not? It might not. Oh, will it? Oh, I don't think it will. It's going blue there. Don't think it wants me to put it here. No, so I'm kind of stuck. So anyway, if we want to make like different tool presets, we can do that. Let's make one. Okay, let's try this. I'm not sure if it'll let me make a new preset. I'm not exactly sure how this works. Yeah, not loving that. Anyway, let's start drawing. And I'm not sure that I need that. So maybe that'll speed things up a little bit. Ah, it does. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do a quick sketch of Bloom. This will also show you kind of my sketching process, because very important that we start out with some idea of what we're going to do. And very simple illustration. I just want Bloom to be more or less static pose, standing in place. Maybe he's holding a sign. One problem that we have is the illustration format for the blog tends to be horizontal. So I have to kind of cheat things a little bit. But anyway, let's just start very quickly sketching. So we're going to have Bloom probably like this. Let's make the line a bit smaller. And we'll give him sort of like a wavy costume. I'm kind of so used to drawing him with his 1904 suit. So he's going to be like wavy gravy rather than Leopold Bloom. And we'll probably have like flowers. Because we want to maybe have like a more horizontal composition, maybe something like this. Change it later if I don't like it. Make love, not war. I'm not getting caught up in any of this stuff. Now, because it's Bloom, and to look like Bloom, he should have his bowler hat, or we'll completely lose the likeness. So it'll be something like that. Now I want to click the select tool, see if I can drag him. Auto select we should switch off, and now I can position him. And let's say we want to flip him horizontally to check to make sure that the actual design looks okay. Edit, transform, flip horizontal. And actually this makes more sense to have the sign in his right hand. So I think he's right-handed. Anyway, something like this. Now, any other bits and bobs we can add to make him look like a 1960s flower child. He's got the mustache. And let's see, some sort of flowing robes. Again, we keep this part of the process kind of loose. I'm not going to do anything that I don't care about, so that if I need to draw the whole thing again from scratch, I can do that. Sign's too big, so I'm going to take that in a bit. Let's see if shortcuts work. E for erase, yes. B for brush. And he'd have like a CND logo, kind of pennant, chain or whatever. Okay, so what I like to do then is take this layer, take the opacity down, and make a new layer. And then we can zoom in a little bit, because we've sort of established where he's going to be in the frame. The other thing too, in terms of background elements, we could add like, maybe there's a riot protest and there's other people doing their business here. But in any event, let's see if I can then rearrange these layers. Will it let me do it? I need to be able to move layers. Oh, there we go. Slight lag, that's all, but a little bit scary there. Okay, back to that background crowd layer, take it down. Let's see if we can color code these layers. Color blue, as you do in Photoshop. So far, I'm not feeling any kind of a pinch in terms of like figuring out the drawing. Okay, let's go in and start doing a pass where we sort of tighten it up a little bit. Maybe set opacity just a little higher and maybe make a few more commitments. So the flower chain again, just construct the whole thing. This is sort of like not the final pass still, but we're just starting to go in and kind of think it through a little more solidly. Again, I'm not going to invest a massive amount of time on this. This is still a fluid process here. We're not locking in anything yet. Being a self-respecting hippie, there should be all kinds of, maybe it's a tie-dye or something. Again, that's enough of a note for that. I'm not going to worry about the details of that. That's just a note for me. Trying to think of like 1960s, 1970s costumes. I think big collars might have been in. They were certainly in the 70s, and this could be an early 70s protest march. So fun to draw. I'll make big collars. And let's see if I can rotate this. Yep, that's nice. So I feel that the lower layer is kind of blending too much into the rough pass. So I'm going to right click on that and go blending options, color overlay. There we go. There's the color. Small little changes are just throwing me. So I'm going to make the underlayer blue. And now you can see, I hope you can see it. It's a little bit easier now to separate one from the other. And because that layer is blue, let's go color blue. And the top one will be color none. That way I don't get lost. Certainly feeling a slight amount of lag here with the brush. But again, that's honestly to be expected. But again, this is sort of an experiment to see does it work. Also, we're going to give him like a flower in his bowler hat. Now, in terms of drawing the hand, when you draw a hand, think of it as a box. Here's the wrist, like a matchbox or what have you. And then we think of the fingers initially as like a mitten. It's an easier way rather than getting caught up in the tangle of lines. So let's undo that. Again, I'm not going to worry hugely about the anatomy of it, but just enough to get it in place. Tie that down in the next one. I'm going to make the sign a bit smaller. And I'm going to give him maybe not too wizardy. I don't want him to look like a wizard necessarily, but he should have kind of flowing shirt or something like that. For proper hippie cred, we'll give him sandals. Make him look a little bit like Asterix. Let's see if I can double click that. Yeah, double click to center. Nice one. This foot's too low, so let's just see if I can use the lasso tool and move it up. Yep. So I'm trying to do like kind of workflow that I would do were I in Photoshop. So okay, let's switch off the layers beneath. We're losing some form here. I don't like what's happened here, so I'm going to just go in and delete a bit of that. Layer below again. We could probably give him like a fringe or something. Okay, and maybe pat it out a bit on this side at the back. Do this tool here. Edit. Transform, flip horizontal. I would still play with the feet positions a little bit, so I'm going to use the lasso tool. Make the leg just a little longer. I'm using V on the keyboard to activate the selection tool. B for brush again, and now let's see if we can do that. Not sure about this hand position. It's a little bit, it balances out the pose, but it looks a little bit too much to me. So let's just undo it. I'm going to give them like more of a ta-da. Okay, now I'm going to try an experiment here. Before I go any further, File, Save as PSD. This is great. The program saves very nicely as a PSD file. So if I do lose the run of this, I can take it into Photoshop and continue from there. So let's try playing with the warp tool. Let's just select around this. Edit, Transform, Warp. Because I'm feeling he's just a little bit off to one side. So rather than redrawing, let's use the warp tool. Certainly a little laggier than what I would feel in Photoshop, but it does work. Control D. Now if I go to history, I should be able to compare from that to that. I like that better. Okay, edit, transform, flip horizontal. So we're back to where we were, which is good. Now we fixed it with the warp tool as well. I want to make this hand a little smaller and it's a little big. Every time Control T is a shortcut that I have customed in Photoshop and it's making a new tab. Edit, transform, scale. Okay, just a little lag there. Little flaky here. Edit, transform, rotate. And didn't have to do that. I could have as easily redrawn, but I want to see the process of the tool itself. File, save as PSD, and it's saved in my downloads folder. It's saved on new version, new project 1. I'm not going to worry about the naming convention. I'm just letting it do whatever it does. It has, let's see, more options. Export as, so we can export as different files as well. Great. Now we have this version. I'm going to color this one, let's say orange, blending option, color overlay, orange. And then I'll make a new layer And now I'm going to see if I can find a brush that I like a bit better than this one. That was a nice brush for just sketching in because it's so blocky and big. It keeps manners on me. It stops me from getting too clean. But I know I have brushes that I like better for the next phase. And also, yeah, this brush is lovely. So I'm going to actually put my ABR file in the notes below too. So if you want to use mine, you can do that. So let's take the opacity down and rotate a little bit. Whoa. Made a ink line there that I didn't like. That's odd. E, delete. Okay. Rotate. And Z for zoom. Rotate. I want to be able to draw this guy more. Oh, what's going on? See that glitch again? So, okay, release. Rotate and... that's really annoying. So I can probably set this here. I think maybe that might be the way to do it for certain angles, because something glitched there. Didn't like that, to be honest. Now see the little lag here too. It's not too bad though. Again, this isn't to have the fastest possible experience, it's to have one that works. And it certainly works. Let's take the opacity of this line up a little bit. I like to go for slightly looser style, and this is certainly like that. I don't like the hard vector line style, and I think it looks sterile. Very easy to fall into that kind of trap. Okay, so I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it's lagging. Well, you know what? It's funny when I see people doing reviews and there's like the most infinitesimal amount of lag. People really go, and I understand that if you pay money for a tablet, you want it to have as little lag as possible, but at some point, look, here's the deal. At some point, you're going to, no matter how fast your tablet or your computer, you're going to work on an image or a project that's got some ridiculous file size, and your hardware, your software is just going to hit that wall. So it's good to be able to work with lag and not to be too kind of off-put by it. It's not ideal. I'm not going to pretend it is, but it's not the end of the world. This is actually doing a fairly decent job. Now, I'm working on a fairly decent computer for the time I bought it, which was about 5 or 6 years ago. I would say, with everything tech, it's probably, at least the graphics card anyway, has probably vastly been outclassed in the years since. So you may well have a faster machine. And again, we are working in a browser too. I'm amazed this works at all. I can't believe I'm doing this in Firefox. And I'm not sure if Photopea works better maybe in other programs or not. I'm doing this for free. There's no cost here. So if you're on a budget, or if like me, you absolutely are done with Adobe. Because when I used them, I used the my old CS6 version. I also have a CS5 version of Photoshop. But I really don't want to ever pay them money again, because I think they're a disgusting company. This is certainly maybe not for everyone, but it's working fine for me so far. And it's interesting actually to go on Trustpilot. Look up Adobe on Trustpilot and see the things people say about them. It's last time I checked, it was a 1-star company, which I think is 1 star too many. Some of the stuff they did and have been doing, and it's finally sort of caught up with them as well. The FTC, or I think it's sort of the SEC, or one of the feds, have finally taken them for antitrust and very dodgy business practices in terms of how they bill people. Your free month trial, and when you sign up and quit, they'll charge you for the year and this kind of thing. When I tried to cancel one of the, I did a trial version for one of the courses I taught. Oh God, trying to cancel after that was a joy. And actually, after I quote unquote canceled, they were still billing me. That's what gets you Adobe. In the unlikely event that you're listening, that's what gets you the 1 star. So negative stars actually would be better. And a company starting like that from scratch without the legacy user base would not get very far, I think. So they are coasting on the work of people back in ye good old days. Not that they don't do interesting things, because they do. But so many people have had like really ghastly experiences trying to, if you have a problem, here's what will probably happen to a lot of people. You're working with Photoshop as I was, and everything's great. And I was working on a fairly common, like a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro 16, very expensive machine. This is back a few years ago too, when it was nowhere near old. It was only like a year or two old. And I was on the cloud, and I thought, I better update because, maybe there's cool new stuff. So I updated it, and it would not start. And there were many of us who basically our version of Photoshop was a brick. It was useless. And it might like open up a certain file for a few minutes and then crash. Adobe just simply didn't care. We had a thread going for quite a long time on the Adobe website, and it was clear they were like, their level of support was, have you tried switching it on or switching it off again? Have you tried disabling your graphics card? Thanks, Adobe. That's really, really helpful. So I just thought, you know what? As many people did who had, businesses relying on these awful people, that I can't do this anymore. So I'm out. I was lucky because I had bought one of the final CS versions back in 2009 or 10 or something, before the cloud boondoggle. And so I was able to fall back on that. So I see people now who are trying to work with Premiere, and they have these very good machines, like way better than mine. And they said, I can't work in Premiere anymore because the latest versions just don't work on my computer. And I've got this like NASA quality graphics card, and it's not good enough for Adobe apparently. I can work with it. I start my Premiere version CS5, and guess what? It works fine. No, it doesn't have a lot of the later stuff, but I don't need the later stuff. So I know a lot of people do, and you're kind of banjacks, but I think the vast majority of people don't need all the funky toys. I just want to edit. I need to be able to edit my videos. The one you're watching now will be edited in a 12-year-old version of Adobe Premiere. So if you can dig up one of them, if you have one lying around in your house, I would strongly recommend, assuming they haven't switched off the activation servers, that'll be the next little trick. But I'm ready for that, because if and when that happens and I have to reinstall and I can't run my own software, I'll begin the process then of completely switching to open source or Affinity or some other program like that. Again, they switched off the CS3 activation server, so people who had bought that product from Adobe had to run like cracks just to activate their own version that they owned. Again, what do you even say about that? But a company that's so contemptuous. They also get this, if you haven't heard this, it's a doozy. Then they warned people who had already bought CS6 that Adobe had lost the rights of some of the code in CS6, and that if you used CS6, you could be susceptible to a lawsuit. To which my response is, go get you know what. Wow. Not exactly building your brand confidence there, are you, Adobe? Well done. Threatening the people who bought your product in good faith with legal action. Go to hell. So... Anyway, let's give this guy some flowers and switch off the orange. And I think to make this like a little more interesting, like he's sort of meant to be like a hippie. So I'll just make some kind of tatters here and give him a soul as well. So typical hippie text was all LSD, wavy, with a cliche anyway, so let's try to make this a little wobbly, and there should be some sort of like graphical element here too. I'm trying hard to... Oh, there we go. Weird. Go in there a little tighter. There we go. It's fighting me there just to put that little dot in. So the other thing I'd like to do is just darken some of the lines here. I don't think I'm going to put patterns on his clothing actually, because I think it'll fight with the actual flowers around his neck, but I will just darken these on the underside. And just to maybe align the cuffs there at the ends of his shirt or his robe or whatever, we'll just put some lines on here and darken that out too. Let's switch to white. There we go. And maybe I'll just put like a little highlight in there. It's definitely fighting these little small moves that I'm trying to do. It might be the brush not playing nice with the thing, but that's definitely looking weird now. Let me go back and put some black in on that. Oh, I wanted to give him sort of long hair as well. Right, so before I do that, let me just continue this darkening process here. And because this risks messing it up, I'm going to file, save, and make a new layer. This time I'm just going to put the original one down on a lower opacity, and on the top layer, let's see if we can give him longer hair, because we don't want him to look like a square man. Okay, so we'll give him hippie dreads. This might look, or hippie locks, this might look weird. Let's see. I don't want to lose the fact that it's Leopold Bloom or we kind of fail in the illustration. So get the ear back out there. I think we'll get away with it. The bowler hat and the face kind of sell it. So what I will do is see if I can just use the eraser, see if I can merge these layers. Put the lower layer back up to high and erase here and here. Okay, so let's select these two, right click and merge layers. Incredible, done. Okay, B for brush. Maybe give them some stubble. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Does not like that. So let me switch to a different, I'm kind of done with this now. So let me try a different brush and see if it'll let me work with that. So I'm going to pick one of these simple standard brushes up here. There we go. Just to give him like a little bit of, like he hasn't shaved for a couple of days. He's been on the commune. So there we go. I think that'll do. I don't love it, but you know, I give myself like usually a 1 hour-ish time limit on these, otherwise I'll be at them forever. Always possible to go back in and muck around and play with them. Anyway, let me show you the process now. Lie. It's not a lie, it's artistic truth. Line. So we have the background here. So let's make a new layer. And here is how I color it on Photoshop. Let's see if it'll let me do it here. A W for the wand. So again, the wand, select in here. And what it's done is select marching ants, which more or less align with the drawing. Let me switch off the background layer so we can see what's happening. On the layer beneath, we'll call this one white. And so we need to invert this because what this has done is it's selected the entire negative space around the character. So he goes, and it's also too big. If I put white in there, it'll be bleeding over the edge. So we go select, modify, contract. And I think with this size, maybe 5 pixels might be enough. Oh, expand. Select inverse, I'm sorry. So we inverse first. Select, modify, contract. 5 pixels gets us to here. 6, 7. Oh no. I think 7 might be better. Select, modify, contract. Let's make it 7. And that gets the marching ants more or less to halfway inside there. That's great. So now on the white layer, we make sure we have white selected. Where's the fill tool? I hate the way Photoshop arranged all of this. I know Photopea kind of has to follow along with it. I think it's in here. Why would you hide the paint bucket under gradient? What genius thought that was a good idea? Okay, so now we have the white mask. Put the background back on. I'm going to right click and blending options, color overlay, and make the background, let's see, let's go with gray. Might be a monochrome image. So we can get rid of these layers here. And now what I'm going to do is add, I think just tones is fine for this. Actually, you know what? Let's do it in color. So I'm going to hold on Alt or Option and drag. Will it let me? So instead, let's right click on that white layer and duplicate layer. So we'll double click that and call it skin. And holding down the Alt Option key, we can then mask it to the white layer. Right click on this and go blending options, color overlay, and give them a skin color. Okay. And what we're going to do now is an extractive process where we begin to chop him up onto layers. Let's do the L tool for the lasso. And we make sure it's set to the lasso select. And let's just do the flowers by themselves, not even the stems, just the flowers. Okay, Control C, Control X, and deselect. And now I want to paste them in place, Control Shift V. And now we have a new layer, call it flowers, and Alter Option and nest it in there. Let's give the flowers a nice sort of yellow color, right? Blending options, color overlay. And once you're chopping like this, you can just chop where we can change the colors at any time. And as you're proceeding, you are removing layer by layer. As you can proceed, it actually gets easier because there's less stuff to chop. So back to the skin layer, and I just want to give him like the bowler hat by itself. Control C, Control X, Control or Command and Shift V. And that's hat. Name as you go, clean as you go, because you'll be sorry if you don't. Right click, blending options, color overlay, normal, take it really dark. Okay, next one will be maybe the trousers. Control C, Control X, Control Shift and V. Blending options, color overlay. And he's a hippie, man, so let's give him something nice and bright. See how here I kind of chopped the wrong side, so let's go back into the brush. Actually, opacity back to 100 and get rid of that. Next one will be the shirt thing. This time, because the trousers have been cut, I don't have to go to the edge. I can just do this. Same with the flowers. They're gone. So I can just draw a big lasso box around that. not going to worry about the C and D thing for now, just draw around that. And holding down the Alt or Option key, I can then add or subtract by going to Shift to add and Alt or Option to subtract, just like in Photoshop. So you can get these spaces just right. Here too, we want to hold down Alt or Option and tighten that, and then Shift to add and those to subtract. And here too, I'm missing a little bit there, so add that. And if I zoom in here too, I can see I've been a little shoddy there, so let's just tighten that. And depending on your style, that kind of looseness might be okay. Like, maybe you don't care. The C and D logo, let's go in and figure that out now. So what I'm going to do is just extract all of that. And then holding Shift, I'll add in the negative shapes. And little trick, if you want to do like a straight line, you can start here and there, and that'll give you a straight line there when you close. Okay, let's see if this works. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and this will be shirt. Blending options, color overlay, it's also purple. Let's make it red or something. And now we put on all the other layers. So we want them to have say some of the yellowy shirt or some other bright color. Again, that's on the skin layer. Just let's do that. And this. And I don't think, oh yeah, also that's going to include the collar as well. What have I done here? So here's where you can get a little confusing with all these layers. Control Shift V, and that's the shirt. Okay, because I've just cut it off. Blending options, color overlay, and we'll just give it like a, not white necessarily, maybe just a slight off color, beigey kind of thing. So I can see it anyway. Again, I'm not worrying about these little bleeds. I could go in and fix them, but sometimes they create a kind of very nice effect. The other thing we need is a layer for the hair. Again, that'll be on the skin layer. So let's go in and chop that. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Where did it go mad? Let's do it at the top. Control Shift V, hair. And I should rename that shirt as well. Collar and cuffs. So let's do the hair. Right click, blending option, color overlay, make it darkish. Okay. Oh, file, save. The CND metal should be, because that's like a metallic ring. Let's chop that off the skin layer. And again, if we're confused what layer we're actually dealing with. I'm feeling a little lag now on some of these layer selections. So you can see how easy it is now to select that. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. And drag that to the, will it go? Again, a little bit of lag here. Let me use the mouse for that. Yeah, sometimes when I do it with my pen, it creates like a little lag. So I'm going to leave that white. I'm not going to actually touch that. And I'm going to make another layer too for the teeth. Let's chop. And the other thing too, I don't have to like always chop. I can make just a completely new layer, nest it there and call it teeth. Select white and then just draw it in, making sure we're on opacity 100. That also works. Now it's starting to look a little better. He's looking a little spaced out. So let's nest that there. Brush tool. See if it'll let me. Oh, it's on top of the line layer. Okay. So again, let me move this highlight layer to here. Control A, Control X. There we go. Just a little bead. All right, getting close now. Let's do the sign, skin. And again, if we want, we can also make that one highlight. Eyes, light. And keep the line layer on. So the sign, Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Lock it back in, sign. And probably some sort of wooden color for that. On the skin, I'll go in and cut off the wooden stake as well from here. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Run there. Handle. Now I put everything on so I can see my colors. Right click, blending options, color overlay. Let's make it dark. Okay. And the sign itself, the board. Blending options, color overlay. And we'll just make it like a cardboard because that'll be the kind of material on hand. And then the other thing, looking at it now, would probably be to give them some color for the sandals. Maybe with just a bit of skin popping through here and there. Again, Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. And it does this thing where it's freaking everything out, then I put it back in and it's fine. So sandals, right click, blending options, color overlay. And let's make these sort of dark as well. Tonally darker than the colorful thing. So let's file, save as PSD. That looks pretty good. So let's say we want to use the line layer to do an ink line. right? So I've already sort of hinted at doing it here. Let's get rid of that eyes light layer. I'll make a new layer here and hold on Alt or Option and click on there, and I'll call it ink. And let's say I want the Make Love Not War to be a different color. Super easy. Click on this. Let's say we want it to be bright or some other hot color to stand out. Let's make it blue for now. And let's pick a brush that's sort of hard and simple. So I'll pick a brighter, stronger color. And remember, he is counterculture, likes lots of colors. Now, the problem here is we're losing it against that. So let's go bright. Let's make it dark. Solution might be to change the color of the sign to something a little darker or lighter. Either way will work. So I think lighter is the way to go. Just an off-white is fine. So back to our ink layer. And now I can maybe brighten that up a little bit. Oh, it's so slow. Look at that. Still don't like that. So yeah, I'm stuck. I'm just going to have to go with darker colors. And let's see, pink. And say a nice bright green. And war is bad. So war will be red. Now, the original line that I'm masking here is sort of not very heavily done. So if I want these colors to read better, it would involve going in and darkening that. Let me show you how. Go back in. Whoa, too much. Back on the line layer, a little darker. So let's do that and see how that reads. And now as a result of that, we're seeing much stronger. As the bad bosses say,
I've made it pop.
So let's go to the background layer. Blending options, color overlay, and maybe give it some sort of like slight color, maybe in the blue range. Okay. So I'll call this one Bloom, and I'm going to make a layer on top of that, and I'll do a vignette, like a little white soft area around it. Hopefully I can find a brush that'll do that nicely. I don't like the way the brush window handles compared to in Photoshop, but it's okay. I like a little more control than what's there, but again, I've done all this in a free program. Didn't pay this developer a penny. Incredibly, it's one person. Apparently, Photopea is... I don't know how this is possible. Like, it's the work of one very talented human being. So let's make this vignette rim thing at the bottom. And again, it's not letting my pen do that, so I have to use my mouse for this. Strange. Could be some setting I've got, who knows. And I think let's drag that layer outside of that folder. That's better. So then I can on or off. Let's say I want to do some sort of texture on the ground. To black. Hopefully I can find... Oh yeah, look, I right click and it lets me access all of my brushes. So I know I've got some brushes in here that will allow me to do ground texture kind of things. These kind of splatter brushes I'd expect to get really slow. So let's see how if they behave themselves when I make them really big and put them on an opacity. Multiple programs do this where they auto-select the entire stage. I wish people would stop doing that. Okay, so that's one layer. And usually when I do this, I build up different layers. So let's see if I can get a different brush. This one. And take the opacity of that down. And the opacity down again. Let's call it ground. Will I ever learn to spell? So, okay, so not fond of that. That's better, I think. That's a little icky looking. Let's bring that like much lower. Some clouds, perchance. Yeah, one thing I kind of am annoyed by here, each of my brushes have names, cloud 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. This kind of means I have to use the visual as an idea of what they are. That kind of doesn't help me much. So in Photoshop, you can toggle through the different brushes. Oh yeah, the bracket keys I think they're rotating that brush. They're not actually changing it, but it seems to be the bracket keys are moving it left and right or doing something funky with it. I think that's one of my brushes for clouds. Yeah, okay, better. It's annoying. Marching ants around the screen. Okay, so the thing is a bit too wide. Control T. Edit, transform, scale. Oh, that's ugly. Edit, transform, scale. If I hold down, I just want it to scale around the center axis. There we go. Make it a little thinner. I wonder, can I crop it to here? It's not too bad. There's other little things I can add to it, but for now I'm going to leave it because I'm going to have my wife look at it later. This might be enough for us. We might just want the one character rather than do a crowd scene in the back and be here all night. The other thing too is just to assign it. Okay, so just change the hue of the flowers a little bit because they look kind of blech. The other thing too, before I go, would be just a quick shadow layer perhaps. And super easy to do. We have our line and our ink layer. One thing I'll do as well is to make sure that these are seen as kind of a part of a unit. The gray doesn't really read there. Let me make it, I don't know, blue. Okay, blue. So that's just a little reminder that the ink layer travels with the line layer. But if I want to do like a shadow layer, we'll put that underneath here. And again, Alt or Option and nest them into here. Call it SH. Make the opacity to here. Make the blend mode multiply. and brush. And I think for this, maybe we'll try like something with a gradient, which that will go away. And as you can see, we can add kind of shadows fairly easily. I can darken areas that maybe thought should have been darker. Also, maybe go with a harder edge. Yeah, there we go. I like that one. Okay, so that'll go away. And because this is on the layer, then we can make it a little more, a little less. I can harden that. Maybe I want to go with a harder one than that. Yeah, that makes it definitely feel like there's some light coming in here. And make it up to 33. Oops, come on. A little lag going on there. There we go. Let's see, anywhere else we might want shadows. Maybe under here. Oh, take the opacity. And the other thing too, like that was sort of by accident, but you can build the shadows up just by adding layers. So you don't have to go with one big thick blob. In this case, let's do one big thick blob. But you can build up a shadow layer with a lot of subtlety just by doing like layers and layers and layers. And with the soft brush too, that's how a lot of people get it. You wonder how people get the very blendy shadows on their images. You can go too far with it as well, of course. One tool that I really like, and I haven't played with it yet here, is the smudge tool. And that enables you to kind of paint. Like I can use like this little back and forth to kind of blend it. And it's definitely working. It's not got my favorite brush on it yet, but it's kind of working reasonably well. And again, I wish I could expand this a little bit. I think this is my usual smudge tool. Strength of the smudge should be much higher than that. Let's see, not 100. A little goes a long way, but let's put it to 100 and see anyway. It can really slow things down as well. Find a different brush. Some brushes play very badly with smudge. That one is not nice. Let's try this one. That's getting sort of a kind of nicer look. There's a little red scratch there on the shirt, is it? Yeah. Let's smudge that out. Back to the shadow layer. Now, one problem with smudge is it definitely puts a strain on the program, and I spend a bit more time than this playing with smudge, but you can get kind of the idea of where I'm going with that. And I think for now I'll just soften it back to eraser tool and pick the soft one and bring the opacity down to say 20. And you can clean up some of the crud, keep some of the smudgy, soften it where you think you're dealing with like a bigger area. And we can change the blend mode on this, so you get very different results with color burn, or is it one of the other ones? Linear burn, darker color. There we go, that lighten just takes it away. There we go. So overlay creates a really interesting kind of effect, and you can have multiple layers. Let's try a different one. Soft light, hard light, very dramatic. So I think I'll just keep it simple, and I'm just going to keep it on multiply and take the opacity. Just do about there. So that's it. That is me doing a full drawing illustration in Photopea instead of my usual workflow, which is Adobe Photoshop CS6. Will I use it again? Probably, yeah. The beauty of this is I have another machine that's running on Linux, and it will not. I've tried. I cannot get Wine to load Photoshop on that. I'm pretty sure I could probably get some sort of Photopea performance on that. It's fantastic to have access to that. It does feel a lot laggier than Photoshop, but not to the point where I can't use it. And I would suspect that there's people out there with faster machines, you can probably use it fine. If you're using Photoshop, let's say, to make thumbnails, you should definitely give Photopea a chance, give it a whirl, see if you like it or not, because 20 a month is going to come to 12 times that a year. It's enough, and you work it out over the course of your career, you're starting to look at like serious money, so why give it to people that are just gouging at this point? Yeah, that's about it. Can't think of anything else to say, so I'm bleeding off like I usually do, because I never think of an outro. If you like this, I have a Patreon. We've only got a few members. It's only started and I'm kind of having a really rough year, but definitely we'll be doing like a lot more stuff for it, a lot more material on the way, and I'll be dumping all of my work assets onto that as well. So if people want to pick apart some of the animations that I've done for my courses over the year, you'll be able to see it there. Any requests any patrons have, if they want me to dump files, let me know and I will plop them on there. Okay, that is it. In the comments below, you'll see all the notes to other assets as well as the brush files. So if you want to load my ABR file into, that's my elderly cat in his litter box behind me. So anyway, that's it, and I'll let you go, and stay tuned for the next one. Okay, cheers, bye.